purpose of this town hall is to hopefully give families some more information about what their options are for reopening. We have both in-person and online options, and I think that that can be really confusing, and there's a lot of difficult decisions that families need to make. And so the purpose of this is to just hopefully provide some clarity around those different scenarios. A few housekeeping items. We are recording this session so that those who could not view it or want to review it can watch. We will post that. If you are not okay with it being recorded, then this is your opportunity to exit, but I also want to let you know that it is being recorded. All participants have been muted, and videos may have been automatically turned off, and that's just out of respect of time and the purpose of this meeting. Hopefully the information I give you answers a lot of your questions. If you have individual questions or questions that are specific to your school or your student only, then I will likely refer you to your principal. This presentation is not meant to go into the details of what every school is doing. It is meant to give you a broader understanding of what it means if you send your child in person and what it means if you choose the online option. If you do have questions, once I get through the presentation, then I will go through the chat and I will address questions that are for the group. Again, if it's an individual question, I will likely reach out to you after this presentation. At the end of the presentation, I'll also include my email and contact number so that you know how to get a hold of me if you think of things following this or still have some things that you want answered. Just a quick introduction. I'm Jenny Wakeman. I'm the Executive Director of Instructional Support here in Weld Re3J. I have several programs that I oversee and will be the lead administrator for the Weld Re3J K-12 Innovations program. So as I mentioned, the objectives for this town hall is to provide parents and families with information regarding what to expect in both an in-person learning scenario or for families who are choosing the Weld Re3J K-12 Innovations program, which is fully online. And this presentation will focus on those two scenarios. If there are other questions, I'll make sure to direct you to the person who can answer those questions for you. So I think one of the questions that I've been getting the most from families and that I hope that I can provide some clarity around is, what does it mean if I choose in person for my child? What does remote learning mean? And then what does it look like or sound like if I choose the online? So in person, children preschool through grade 12 will be attending school every Tuesday through Friday for their usual schedule. There are some adjustments that might be made in terms of start and end time in order to accommodate the safety protocols that we have to put in place, but in general, your students will continue to attend like they usually do, Tuesday through Friday, with Mondays being what we will discuss as remote learning. All students who are attending in person are also expected to follow all the safety and healthy protocols that we have outlined in the reopening plan. For remote learning, that term is used for our students who are attending in person. And it refers specifically to the Mondays that will begin. The first one is September 14th. And that is similar to what parents experienced in the spring in terms of their child will log on, they'll access assignments through, if they're a preschool, kinder, or first grade, they will access their assignments through Seesaw. If they are grades 2 through 12, they will access their assignments through Google Classroom. And those assignments will be directly tied to what students were doing when they were attending in person. So for every teacher that they have during the day, they will engage in some sort of activity every Monday, starting September 15th, that will be done remotely. And teachers will be working really hard to implement training and professional development that they have engaged in this summer and will engage in this fall, to make sure that there's a smooth transition between what kids are doing in the classroom during the week and then what they will engage in online remotely on those Mondays. The other thing that people need to know about remote learning is that that approach is what we will take if your child is attending in person, and then for whatever reason related to COVID, that classroom, that cohort, or that school is asked to close down for an extended period of time. So children who are in person and must not attend school for a period of time due to COVID, they will engage in remote learning. The online program is what we have named Weld Re3J K-12 Innovations. And that program is new. It's been essentially created by us with some assistance from a third-party curriculum platform. If you have Googled innovations and you're trying to find out what that school is, you likely either didn't find it or you came across the wrong information, because it's not a program that has existed until we created it. There may be other schools that call themselves innovations, but that is not what this program is. K-12 Innovations for Weld Re3J is the online program that we have created in response to COVID as an option for families. An online program is different from remote learning in that it is specifically designed for students to engage in with no in-person instruction. There's quite a few programs that have been around for a long time that are online schools, and we have partnered with Florida Virtual Learning School, which will provide curriculum for our students in grades kinder through 5th grade. And then we've partnered with Apex, which will provide curriculum for our students in grades 6 through 12. So Florida Virtual Learning School and Apex, again, have been around for a long time, and they have developed curriculum and lessons and modules that students can work through at all ages that are tied to their grade level standards and are made to be done through the computer. However, the difference between our K-12 Innovations program versus if you were to just go to Apex on your own is that joining our online program through Apex or Florida Virtual allows you to stay as a Weld Re3J student. And so that program is going to be taught by our teachers, our staff. Students will have the opportunity to participate in any extracurricular or sports activities, assuming that they open. Students would remain Weld Re3J kids through that program, which is not the case if you decide to go with an online program outside of this. A little bit more about the K-12 Innovations program. I mentioned where the curriculum is coming from. Our K-12 teachers are also there to support students in making sure that they are enrolled in the appropriate courses, that they are provided individualized lessons as needed. They will be helping track progress. They'll be meeting with families and students virtually, and they will also be creating pathways for students who need intervention or enrichment. We also will be supporting students who have an IEP, students with disabilities, if they are English learners, if they are gifted and talented or have 504s. We will have staff that will be supporting those students if you choose the Re3J K-12 Innovations Program. The other part of that is that the courses that students engage in and enroll in will align with what is happening in person as much as possible, so that if families choose to do the online program for this first semester and then they want to come back in person, that you can make that choice and that the transition is as smooth as possible. And that goes both ways. So if families start off in person and then they decide that that's not working for their family for whatever reason, they can also move to the K-12 Innovations. I will say that we are asking families to commit to a semester for either in person or online as much as possible. And the reason for that is because we are using our own staff. We want to make sure that we have enough teachers online and enough teachers in person to support every kid, no matter what they choose. And so we really need to know, we need to have as accurate of enrollment as we can to make those decisions. Both Florida Virtual Learning and Apex curriculums and our K-12 Innovations program does allow for families to have some flexibility with scheduling. So this is a question I've gotten quite a bit. If families choose online, do they have to log on at 8 a.m. and then do they have to be sitting in front of the computer for a certain number of hours each day? What I will say is that you do not have to log on at any specific time. The systems themselves do track the progress and the amount of time that students are engaging in the learning, but there is flexibility in terms of how often you take breaks, how long students engage. Younger kids might do 20 minutes of work and then take a break and then come back and do 20 or 30 minutes more. For families who can't support their students during the day but can support them more in the evening, that will allow this online program will allow families that flexibility as well. The only thing that I want to be upfront about is that our K-12 Innovations teachers will be available to support kids and families directly that Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 3:45. So if there are specific arrangements or meetings that need to be made, we will work with families, but our teacher availability time will remain the same as in person. The other question that I get is around attendance requirements and if students will have to sit in front of the computer for 7 hours every single day. The Colorado Department of Education does require that attendance and seat time is the same for students in an online program as it is for students in brick and mortar or in person. However, again, there is flexibility for families. There may be days in the online program where you can put more time in and then days where you can put less time in. And so this would allow you that flexibility. The other thing that I often encourage families to think about is even when your students are at school, they are not engaged in direct instruction for the 7.5 hours. There's lunch, there's recess or breaks and those sorts of things. There's the curriculum activities also allow for different formats that kids are engaging in. So They might be doing videos, they might be doing interactive activities, they might be doing a writing assignment on their own. So your child will not be sitting in front of the computer from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Certainly, as students get older, there's a level of more independence that they will be asked to work through, and the content will be much heavier. But for little ones, there is some flexibility in terms of what those activities look like. There's certainly an option for some activities to be printed and students to be cutting and writing and pasting and those sorts of things, depending on grade level and the course content. Okay, I think I covered the gist of what I wanted to make sure people knew about what in-person and online meant. I'm going to go ahead and go to the chat here and see what questions I can answer, and I'll start at the top. Hopefully people were able to get sound working, but again, we will post this so you can watch. If you already registered in spring, do you need to register for online? That's a great question. So students who were in grades 6 through 12 who were doing what was formerly called WC Online, you need to enroll in K-12 Innovations. The curriculum, APEX, that they were using last spring is the same. But we are adding some courses. We're adding some AP, adding some honors, and we're really trying to revamp our online program, even at the high school level, to provide additional supports to kids that we have not previously had in place. So if you're going to do online, even if you did it last year, we do ask you to fill out that form. The remote Mondays, I'm going to this question, what's the thought process behind the 4-day school week starting September 14th? There's a couple of things that came from the surveys and the work groups that we did this summer. The first one is that teachers need to have more training and support. If we have to go to an extended remote learning environment. What happened in the spring, we all did our very best, but it was a crisis situation, and we really had to learn we had to learn quickly. And so we want that experience. If schools close, if classes close, if cohorts close, we want the experience for folks to be more aligned, and for students and families to be more prepared for what remote learning looks like. And so doing remote Mondays gives students and families and teachers the opportunity to sort of practice that scenario. And it also provides critical time for our teachers to collaborate and plan lessons in a blended learning environment. The question about IDs for transportation services, I actually don't know the answer to that. I might have to get back to you. If you choose online learning, will teachers be teaching online live time? It's a good question. It's not part of the requirement of online. A lot of it will really be individualized for what kids and families need. With the what's referred to as like synchronous learning, that means that kids have to tune in at a certain time to watch a certain lesson. And so that might work for some families. If our online teacher says, I'm going to do this direct lesson for science, you need to log on at 11 o'clock and we're going to do it from 11 to 11:30. For some families that might work, but for others, that's not a time when they can assist their child in logging in and engaging in that lesson. So those decisions are really going to be made on an individual basis. Will K-12 students have the opportunity to engage with their teachers online in a live mode? They will, but it isn't a requirement, if that answers your question. If doing online, will teachers, okay, I think I answered the live question, hopefully. If you're new or you just registered, or you're wondering about when will you get information about the K-12 Innovations Program, our teachers, both in-person teachers and our online teachers, come back this Monday, August 10th. And so you can expect for online teachers to be reaching out to you. There's time set aside August 10th, 11th, and 12th. So they'll be reaching out and introducing themselves and giving you some basic information on when and what to expect in terms of getting started. We are hoping to start K-12 Innovations the same week that the district will start in person, which is August 18th. Is there an alignment document that matches district's map? How can we assure that if they do a semester online, then in person, the units will match? Fifth grade does fractions, second quarter. That is a great question. We are going to do everything that we can to line up our online program to what is happening in the classroom. There may be some things that are not a perfect match, but both in-person and online will focus on fifth grade level standards. And so, so we'll be working closely with regular teachers in person and our online to make sure that those match up as much as possible. With high school students, it is a little bit easier in terms of courses because we will align high school students' courses with the block schedule that's going to be happening at high school, which means if they are choosing the online program at the high school level, they're still going to take the 4 classes online, just like they would if they were in person. And the reason for that is that it allows for them to move at semester if that's something that they want to do. And Kelly Dwyer is here and she can talk more to that, but I'll get through questions that maybe are more general. And then if there's questions about high school or middle school, then Kelly can answer those. Questions more about the hours, roughly 7 hours a day. Yes, but again, that's engaging in work and it's a general guideline. I don't want people to choose online programming because they think that it's going to be less learning for students, because it is going to be just as rigorous as if students were in person, but the way that students get the content will look differently. I think I answered questions about flexibility. We will be able to work with parents in terms of when kids log on and for how long. How many students in a cohort? I'm assuming this is a question about in person, and it really does depend on the school and grade level. Our elementary classrooms will likely be around 20, and at the middle school, they're doing a cohort level, so those sizes are much larger. I think the original plans were around 60 to 80 students in a cohort. And then at the high school level, the block schedule is really our best tool for reducing the amount of the number of students that high school kids come in contact with. But if your high school child has students in their English language arts class, it likely will not be the exact same students that then follow them to their mathematics class. It's just not possible. Any students who do in-person or online will get a one-to-one device. So last spring, Most grade levels got a Chromebook if you were with us. This year, all students K through 12 will get a one-to-one device. That includes online students. In-person starts August 18th, with the exception of kindergarten and preschool, which start August 19th, one day later. In-person learning, upon entering the building, does a parent need to accompany the student to fill out a health questionnaire? No. We will have a screening process for students before they enter the building, which will include temperature taking and a visual assessment. But the screener that is part of the reopening plan is really to be done at home. So we're asking families, before your child leaves for school, please make sure they don't have a fever. Please make sure they don't have any of the symptoms listed. And I do want to be clear about that because there are several symptoms listed on the screener: cough, headache, temperature, nausea. There's several symptoms, and if your child has any of those, they may not attend. And it's most likely that they will not be able to attend for at least 10 days. Even whether you get a COVID test or not. That has been the guidance that has come very clearly from all of our health departments, including Colorado Department of Education, that any children who are symptomatic may not come to school, and that they will be asked to isolate for 10 days. If you send your child and they become symptomatic once they come to school, you will be asked to pick them up immediately. Questions about our students going to remain in the same classroom all day? We are going to do that as much as possible. Again, in some settings, elementary versus secondary, that is easier than others. But we are going to try and limit the number of classrooms that kids are rotating to and sending teachers in whenever that's possible. For if you're going online, then yes, you will get a Zoom meeting and you will get several opportunities to work with your child's online teachers to make sure that you understand the platform, that you know how to access that you know how to get a hold of your child's teacher. There'll be quite a bit of orientation that will need to happen for our teachers and for families. There are also going to be, in regards to in-person, there will definitely be some staggering of hallway passing and procedures throughout the day to limit the mixing of cohorts. A few questions about safety precautions. I think probably, all of these are listed in the reopening plan, but I know it's a lot to get through. Probably the most important things that parents need to know are the requirements for masks. We will be offering mask breaks throughout the day. That does not include lunchtime, or if you have a young child and they're out on recess. So there will be quite a bit of opportunities where teachers will be taking students outdoors, assuming that the weather is good, at least for a while here. Finding spaces where students can safely space apart so that they can take their masks off. The other safety protocols involve social distancing and physical distancing. And cohorting is a big safety strategy that we will be utilizing. That way, If a student does become ill, we will more easily be able to identify who might have been directly exposed, and that can hopefully keep us from closing down a school. It's 6:35, so I want to be respectful of people's times and also make sure that I get questions answered. Again, if you do have individual questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm going to look. Supply should be posted on your from your schools.
Jenny, thank you for doing this meeting. I just wanted to ask a quick question.
Sure.
If the students are doing online training, and I again, I apologize for getting on a little bit. If we are doing the online learning, I'm sorry. Is that a mixture to be doing in-class teaching and online teaching at the same time, or how exactly does that work? Just real quick.
Okay. Hopefully this answers your question. So if you do online, you're online 100%. You're choosing that program, and there won't be any in-person component, and that is the K-12 Innovations program. If you choose in-person, then your child will be going Tuesday through Friday with remote learning Mondays, and also parents need to be prepared for if there is a closure, then their child would move to remote with their teachers that they were engaging with in person. They would not move to our online program. Does that answer your question?
Yes, follow-up question to that would be if we do choose the online learning and then could we choose after the first semester to go back to in-person?
Yes, great question. Yes. Again, we're asking families to commit to a semester so that we make sure that we have the staff to support kids, but any family can move at semester. Either way, if you were in person and you want to go online, if you were online and you want to go in person, you can do that in January.
Thank you.
I'm just doing a quick scan. I know there were a lot of questions that I maybe didn't get to, but I do have this chat saved. And so again, if you want to reach out to me or you want me to give you a call, I'm happy to do that. I'll also do my best to reach out to you through the chat. The only thing is, if you, if it doesn't have your name in the chat, I won't know who to reach out to. So if you email me or call me, I will make sure that I get back to the right person and give you the right information.
Jenny, would you guys be providing a link to the online learning?
To the courses, or tell me more about your question.
So how do I sign my kids up for online learning?
Yes. So if you go to our website, re3j.com, under departments is a page titled K-12 Innovations. And when you scroll about halfway down that page, there's big, bold registration highlighted, and you can click there and register. If you have trouble, I'm also happy to send you the link directly.
Great.
I would also say that a lot of people have put their questions in the chat, and I find it disrespectful that you would sort of jump the line.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I went through the chat, and there are several questions that have been answered or several questions that are specific.
Oh, no, sorry. I did not mean you.
Oh.
You're good.
If there's a burning question that people feel like has to be answered here for the group, I am happy to do that. I just also want to be respectful of people's time because it is 6:40. And again, like, I'm committed to calling people back and answering emails. that are specific questions. I know that there are no easy decisions for parents right now. The purpose of this meeting was really just to try and give people the information that they need to make the decision that's best for their child and their family.
Jenny,
Okay.
it does seem like there's a lot of questions about how positive cases will be communicated to families. Could you go over that real quick?
Yeah, thanks for calling that out. So the tricky part is, if anybody on this has needed to go get a test, what we've been told by local health departments is that they are behind in getting test results to people. That it could take 7 to 14 days for the actual positive test to come back. And so it's possible that that by the time we find out about that positive case, that the child hasn't been in school for a couple of weeks. We are notified by the health department when a child has tested positive. Again, there's a lag in that. We are not notified if someone in the child's home is tested positive. When we do have a positive test that is reported to us or that we confirm, then we will be letting families know as soon as we know, in terms of trying to figure out if other children were directly exposed. Does that cohort or class need to close? Or, you know, there may be circumstances where it was a long weekend and the child became ill and we don't, you know, we're informed that it's unlikely that there was direct exposure. All of that to say, any staff member or child who has COVID symptoms will be asked to stay home for a minimum of 10 days. Whether you get a negative test or a positive test, or you don't get a test at all, that is the protocol that's been consistently communicated from our health officials, both local and state. So I don't know if that thoroughly addressed the question. Hopefully it did.
Hey, Jenny, quick question. What about children who have asthma and allergies? Like, I know my son has an inhaler at school and stuff, but the symptoms, I guess, are similar to the COVID. So will they make him stay home? I know in the pamphlet you guys sent out, it said you have to get a note from the nurse for it. Do we wait until the first day of school, like, to document that, since we'll drop off medication for that? Or will those children also be asked to stay home for the 10 days? Or how will that work?
Great question. Our district nurses, Kara Chambers, who supports Huff, Weld Central Middle School, and Weld Central High School, they started this week, so they are back. I can give you their direct contact information, but they would be able to provide appropriate clearance for students who may have symptoms related to asthma or allergies. In some cases, we may ask for doctor documentation. It just depends on what the symptoms are. For our team, it's really important that we know exactly what kinds of symptoms your kids might experience chronically, so that if there are new ones, that we can help monitor that and keep other kids safe too.
Okay, Jenny, I have a question about that and I see it a lot popping up in the chat. So if kids are home for 10 days, will they be doing online learning?
Yeah, it would not be K-12 Innovations programming. We are finding ways to support students through that remote scenario.
Okay, because kids are going to get colds and tons of it. So I see the attendance being pretty rough this year.
Yeah. Some of the details of that are still being worked out, because there will be special circumstances where we may have just a student or two students in a class who has to isolate or quarantine, but the rest of the class is in person, versus if a whole classroom goes remotely, then that teacher would then follow them too. So we are getting creative on ways to support kiddos. who will need to be out for an extended period of time because they are symptomatic.
Okay.
Jenny, there are questions about transportation, quite a few of them in there. And so we just want to let people know that we will be sending out emails starting tomorrow to families specifically about their transportation situation.
No, they can't hear me.
Okay, hopefully everybody heard that. Transportation information is coming out in the next couple of days. If I skipped over something that was for the group, I really apologize. I'm trying to glance at everything. Back to school night information is also coming from your school principals. And so how that looks will come directly from your building principals. It will still be held on Monday, August 17th.
I have a question about the middle school. With them going classroom to classroom, how is everything going to be cleaned?
Yeah, for all of our buildings, anytime we have a new student group entering a classroom, we do have cleaning protocols in place for that, to make sure that that's done before they enter. Okay. If there are specific high school questions, I know that Kelly Dwyer can stay on for maybe 5 more minutes to help clear up questions related to high school specifically. Other than that, again, if I did not address your question, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, I'll go through the chat and make sure that I provide as much information as I can. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to join tonight. I hope that this at least brings some clarity. Again, I have a lot of respect for all of you. There are no easy decisions in education right now. So thank you for your time. And if you want to put high school specific questions in the chat, you can do that and we'll allow other people to exit.
Really quick, a question about for middle school, are they going to be allowed to use their lockers? Or are they going to let them use their backpacks? Because last year they were not allowed to use backpacks in the hallways.
Yeah, they're going to use their backpacks this year.
So no lockers this year?
No lockers, backpacks.
Okay, thank you.
Jenny, do you want me to go through while people are exiting and kind of go through some of the high school ones that are on the side?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. There was a question and it wasn't directed solely to high school, but it talked about still using Infinite Campus, and the high school will use Infinite Campus. Grades will be available for high school and middle school students to see their progress online in Apex, but then once a week, those teachers will upload those into Infinite Campus. And that's what will be used for like eligibility for sports, etc. But it is only updated once a week, but it is a live time update for grades in Apex. So grades will be both, but they will still use Infinite Campus and update there.
Hey everybody, this is Mr. McMillan. I'm going to do one for the middle school Thursday night too, so I can answer a ton of your questions then too. But feel free to email me with any questions that you have as well.
I saw some high school ones. Sorry, I'm working.
Question about restrictions for high school, Ms. Dwyer.
Restrictions? Did you see that? I didn't see that.
What are some restrictions for high schools? I think we mentioned the big ones: masks, cohorting, except to the extent possible at the high school, physical distancing. You guys will be staggering passing periods. Is that correct?
Correct. And lunches will not. Lunches will take place in some different locations, so it won't be the entire student body in the lunchroom. We'll be using outdoors as much as possible for classes that can go outdoors, like PE and some art classes, some ag classes. So yeah, trying to split up as much as possible, and then only the the 4 classes. So kids will have double the time, but half of the classes for interaction. And I saw it somewhere and I couldn't. It was talking about transferring and how high school courses and online courses were going to match up. So students in Apex will do a quarterly system just like the high school will. So they'll have 4 classes a quarter that they'll need to get done. And so that will coincide. And the classes do align at the high school level. They do have to match that curriculum as far as what's being covered in one class versus another. So hopefully that will, be more seamless if a student decides to go back in building second semester. There was a question, and I don't know that it was directed towards high school specifically, but about kids and if they finish online courses quickly, if they have to just sit there. And so Ms. Wakeman covered that a little bit, but especially at the high school, kids do work at a different pace and a different level. So it is tracked and there is specific hours that students need to spend learning, but all kids learn at a different rate. And so if your kid is able to finish that curriculum successfully, then it kind of does look different. Just like in a classroom, a kid might finish work before another student in the classroom.
Let me clarify something really quick. I saw a question about online school starting September 14th. This is a point of confusion for a lot of families. Online, when we say online, we're saying RE3J K-12 Innovations. That will start the same week as in-person instruction. Remote learning, so those Mondays where kids are home and they're doing Google Classroom and Seesaw, that starts September 14th.
So kids in high school, are they required to use a Chromebook or can they use their own laptops? We have found through this last year with Apex, it is more efficient and better to use the Chromebooks. There's a lot of things that it works better with. Kids can log in someplace else if it is an online, an internet type platform, so they can, but usually it's a better system if they do use a Chromebook, but other laptops can be used if that's like an emergency situation.
Kelly, if they're in-person students, they must use a district device while in school, though.
Correct. Yes, I'm sorry. I guess I was just thinking online. I apologize. Yeah, in the building, it has to be a Chromebook. Middle school and high school students, I'm not going to speak to middle school. Mr. McMillan can if that's something different, but high school students will be passing to the class at the same time as the high school students. So middle school will still operate on a semester system. But high schools will work on a quarter. So those students will pass at the quarter, just like in-building students will pass.
Okay, I think. So who can you specifically reach out to? If you have specific questions about the high school, then Kelly Dwyer is your best contact for that program. Again, Kelly's on this call and you can reach out to her specifically at the high school. If it's a question about preschool or K through 5, then I'm happy to answer those questions. I'm happy to answer any questions, no matter what grade level. If I don't know them, then I'll point you to the person who does. Quick question. This is for Sarah Neal about preschool. Preschool will not engage in remote learning on Mondays. We have never had preschool on Mondays, and so that's why they won't be doing that. The only time preschool would engage in remote is if that class had to close for a period of time.
Best person to get a hold of for middle school?
For the online program or school in general?
School in general.
Justin McMillan, the principal there.
Yeah, and I will be hosting like an online kind of town hall Thursday night too, because there's a lot of questions I'm seeing about middle school. I want to make sure I address all those. And feel free to email me anytime.
Okay, well, it's 6:55. I really appreciate everybody coming on, and again, we hope you found this useful. We're all here to do our best to give you the information you need to make decisions and prepare for this new year. And I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Thank you so much.